Alright guys, so if you're watching this video, it's because you're stuck on the different questions that are on 6.3's folder. So 6.3's folders has things that have to deal with positives versus negatives. So remember, or a few things to remember. When you have a positive and a negative, they cancel each other out and make a zero pair. Think about those pirates versus ninjas. The one that has more is going to win. And then since they're opposite signs, you're just going to subtract like normal. For example, if I had 4 positives and 5 negatives, I know that 4 positives versus 5 negatives, there are more negatives than positives. So I know my answer is going to be negative. And if I want to draw it out as a helper, I would draw it out, make 0 pairs, and see what I'm left with. So 0, 0, 0, 0, and my answer would be -1. Alright, so in looking over the different type of problems that you guys have to look at, remember, this is very important, a question that they ask pretty much every year in STAR. Remember, numbers that are in multiplied by a fraction. So for example, if I have 3 times 3/4, I know that 3/4 is less than 1, and that means my answer is going to get smaller. So if my other factor is less than 1, my answer is going to be smaller than the starting number. So it's going to be less than this 3. Now, if I need a number that's greater than my starting number, like so in this case 3 is my starting number and I want this one to be bigger, you would have a number like 3 times maybe an improper fraction because they're greater than 1. You might have it 8 times a mixed number, but as long as it's greater than 1, and don't judge my times, I'm just writing it here. So if I had it times 5 thirds, that is greater than 1. That means the answer is going to be bigger than 3 whenever you multiply it out. Speaking of multiplying, and let me move this for some room. When we multiply fractions, we multiply straight across. So remember, numerator over denominator times the numerator over denominator. You're going to multiply straight across and then simplify as needed. So you multiply straight across and you simplify as needed to get a new numerator and a new denominator. And make sure to simplify. Simplify. So that's M. Remember, you can use the bikini method. So if you had 3 over 6 times, 2 over 9, I can look at this problem and say, do I have a top and a bottom? Remember, bikini method is just a nice way to remember. You need a top and a bottom, but it's also called cross simplification. I'm going to look for a top and a bottom that can be used to simplify these numbers. I'm going to use these numbers as an example, and I know I can take 3's out of 3 and 9. There's 1 3 and 3, and 3 3's and 9. And then I see another top and a bottom over here with 2 and 6, and I can take 2's out of them. So this 2 becomes 1, and this 6 becomes 3. Then I would multiply straight across like normal. 1 times 1 is 1, and 3 times 3 is 9. And that's the simplified version of this number. Of the answer. Had you just multiplied straight across, you would have had bigger product that you would have to simplify both with using the numerator and denominator. Alright, let's see if I can erase some of this. Oops. Let's go back. Get rid of that. Other questions that are on this in this folder. You have number line problems. And what I mean by number line problems is you're having to combine integers using a number line. Remember, you always start at 0. I'm just going to put just hash marks. I'm not even going to label them. Remember, the starting point starts at 0, and it goes left or right, whichever. I'm just going to pretend and go left. But remember, if it goes the other way or continues, it is stacked above. So I'm going to pretend it went this way. And so let's just pretend that it goes another way this way. Wherever it lands, so we're going to pretend land there, is going to be your answer. In this case, this would have been -3 as my answer. So if you needed to write it out, my first number would have been -2 combined with, I'm taking one jump to the right, so +1, and then combined with 1, 2 more negatives to get an answer of -3. So just keep that in mind. I know it's kind of cluttered, but when you're looking at these, it's really going to help you to follow the pattern that's there. Okay, so just 2 more things that I want to give you some hints on. Just moving this over to get some space. So there are problems on there that ask for the cost per pound. That's when we find the unit rate. Remember things like cost per pound, or we're finding unit rate. It's finding the unit of 1. For the example that's there in your folder, it's money over the item. And I'm just going to put item because whether it be pound, per hour, per anything, it doesn't matter. Remember, that means you're going to divide. So again, like the folder 6.2, we have numerator over denominator. You're going to do the same thing. Numerator goes on the inside, denominator stays on the outside, and you'll get an answer at the unit of 1. So whatever your quotient is here is going to be your answer. You also have one where you have to look at the data in a table. If you see a number written like this in there, and I know that there's a few in that table, 3 and then a slash and 2, that's the same thing as if it were written as $3 over 2 pounds or whatever. So just keep that in mind if you were having to find more. So if I wanted to go from 2, let's pretend it's pounds, and I want to turn it into 8 pounds, I would set up my ratio and find a nice pretty scale factor. In this case, it's pretty. I know that I can multiply 2 times 4 to get 8, and what I do to the bottom I have to do to the top. And remember, this is just an example to help guide you to get a number. If you did not have a nice pretty scale factor, you can always set up your problem. Oops, hold on. I'm trying to erase it and it's just not working in my favor. You can always set up your problem using bat and ball methods. So I'm going to put the same numbers, 3 over 2, and it's the dollars, and I'm just not going to write it all out. And then we're going to 8. You can always, remember, multiply your bat. The 2 numbers across from each other. It doesn't always have to look like this. It could be the other 2 numbers. So you're going to multiply your bat and then divide by your ball, and you will still get this answer, this missing information, your question mark, your unknown. That will be your answer. Okay, so last thing is you have some problems where you have to multiply the 2 fractions. So I'm going to go ahead and move this over to remember about this multiplying the 2 fractions to this part right here, if my pen wants to, this part. So remember, you're going to multiply straight across, but then it asks you to compare less than or greater to. Now remember, you can't compare fractions if they have different denominators. So if I were asking you to compare 3/4 and see if it's greater than or less than 1/2, well, you might know that by memory, but in order for you to really know that, they have to have the same denominator. So you have to be able to change one. In elementary, you guys just said, oh, I'm going to multiply the 2 denominators, and then what I do to the bottom, I do to the top. That's fine, but there might be a smaller number. In this case, I know that 4 is a multiple of 2, so I can take this half and times it by 2 to make it a 4th. And what I do to one, I have to do to the other. So 1 times 2 is 2. And then I can compare and decide, is 3/4 greater than 2/4? The answer in this case would be yes. So make sure that you have common denominators after you multiply straight across with the other one when you're comparing. Okay, so if you're stuck beyond these little pointers, I'm going to try to zoom out real quick to let you kind of see everything I wrote about. If you're stuck beyond this, make sure you flip your card to red after you've already asked the shoulder partner, after you watch this video. Maybe you rewind, you kind of look at the problem again. Don't stay stuck on one problem. Flip your card to red, then move on to another problem. Don't sit there and waste time, because we're trying to get as much review of these math concepts that we've done in the beginning of the year, middle of the year, and now here toward the end of the year. All right, so you know what to do.